Welcome, everyone, to Trojan Conquest Live, episode number 3. This is where we have the diehard fans ask for us to, in the offseason, have a weekly show, and we've done that. This is a show for the Trojan family. We want to make sure that everybody's engaged and joining us in the conversation. We have 3 parts to our show. We're going to have a quick tailgate where we talk about maybe some rumors and stuff going on within the Trojan family and football program. Then we kind of segue into our game day where we're going to talk about some football. And then finally, at the end of the show, we're going to have a segment where we like you guys to engage directly with us. We'll be taking, there's a link in the description where you can join us for any questions or comments you might have. Also, during the whole show, if you'd like to drop us an episode, a comment, a question, we will try to get to them towards the end. If it's very poignant and topical, we will bring it up during the show. But in general, most of your comments will be addressed at the very end. This is very fan interactive, so we're really relying on you guys to be a part of the show. So with that said, was beginning the show with our tailgate section and my co-host, Rick. How you doing, Rick?
Tim, happy Sunday to you. Doing great. I'm loving the 5 o'clock time here on the Pacific Coast. It's perfect, man. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's 5 o'clock in SoCal. It means Sunday. Time to hear Trojan football. Thanks for tuning in. Bring a friend. You viewers that are out there, drop your questions. As Tim said, this is interactive. It's to keep everybody in tune with what's going on about USC football, all the diehards out there that are looking forward to kicking it off in late August.
And again, remember, at the very if you go to the description there in the section, if you go down to the bottom, there's a link, and feel free to get into the queue. We will, if you have questions, we will answer them in order once you come in, but we will do first-time callers, which a lot of you will be. We'll move to the front of the queue. So with that, let's go ahead and move into our first segment, and that's going to be our tailgate. And so, Rick, recently we had the USC athletic department put out a tweet talking about a certain school we'll be visiting in Vegas.
This is beautiful, man. We heard about it, I think, last August that we would be playing LSU to open up the 2024 season. And this week, the date and time came out. So I believe it's Sunday, 4:30 Pacific, 6:30 East Coast time on ABC. It's SC and LSU. This is a huge matchup in any year. And it's going to be the first matchup since that controversial national championship was split back in the 03 season. I believe it's the first time that SC is going to play LSU since the late 70s, I believe it was.
Yeah, there's been a lot of...
It might have been the early 80s that they came out to LA, but I know in 79, SC went down to Baton Rouge. So this is a long time coming. It's an SEC team. This is going to be an epic game nonetheless. But then you add it to the fact that we're also going into the Big Ten in 2024, and we have Notre Dame on the schedule. So name me another team in the country that's going to play 11 freaking Power 5 teams of that caliber. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, and you alluded to the 2003 BCS BS, is like I like to call it. Never before have you had a situation where you had the AP and coaches number 1 going into bowl season go off and win their bowl and not be ranked number 1. And that is why I believe the AP poll, going against the grain with the BCS winner, the AP poll actually made the USC Trojans number 1. It was a bit strange. As a matter of fact, there were actually some votes. They weren't supposed to, but there were actually some votes that went towards USC, and they're also supposed to be automatic unanimous. It also led to them changing some of the computer model or what was going on, because it was absolutely absurd that the number 1 team in both polls was left out of the BCS championship game. So there is definitely I'm sure there's some bad blood. I know there's some between the old school fans of LSU and Trojans, because back in the day, there was a lot of smack going on the message boards.
Well, you just sit there. It's the fans. The coaches weren't involved there. The players were not even born. It's the fan bases. It's the SEC versus West Coast. So it's not only the Bayou Bengals, but it's the whole SEC, that mentality. But it's great. They're going to come out. Kudos to LSU. They're one of the teams that actually has traveled out west. So happy to see that game. It's going to be fantastic. Knock on wood, things have changed since the game was announced back in August. You have OU and Texas now going to the SEC a year early in 2024. Also, at the same time, SC and UCLA are going to the Big Ten. So hopefully, one of these teams doesn't back out. I don't think SC is going to back out of this game. It's in Vegas. It's Labor Day weekend. I'm going to be there. Tim, I know you were at the championship game. I think I'm not going to speak.
I'll be there. I'm going to be there.
Going to the game? Are you going to the game?
Yeah, I'm gonna find a way to be there. There's no doubt. There's no way I'm missing this one.
This is going to be a great game. So yeah, anytime you can play a team from the SEC, it's fantastic. We know Pete Carroll's success, and so now it's Lincoln Riley's turn, and there's going to be a lot of smack talking. You know that hey, he left Oklahoma to go to USC because he was afraid of the SEC. Well, here you go. You got Brian Kelly. You got the Bayou Bengals, one of the best teams career-wise in the SEC. Okay, here we got tight end delay. Great. Let's give the whiner Brian Kelly a first game loss. Well, and you got the Brian Kelly, the ex-Notre Dame coach. So this is going to be fantastic. Tim, what are you really looking forward to in this game? What does it say, LSU versus USC? What do you think?
Well, I don't want to bury a lead, but the offensive line is going to be the big play here, right? We know the difference between the SEC and everybody else is they're insanely athletic and very large interior defensive linemen. When I think of the separation, because we know LSU is going to have skill position guys, maybe not necessarily a quarterback, but they're always going to have, besides Joe Burrow, but they always have those skill guys. They always have a great running back. They always have insane receivers. I'm hoping that by then USC's offensive line, especially interior offensive line play, will be vastly improved. Back to those Pete Carroll years where you had those just NFL guy after NFL guys in the interior, just able to protect the quarterback. So that is what I'm going to be looking at in that game, is the trench play. How does the new and improved USC Trojans defensive and offensive line stack up against an SEC offensive and defensive line?
This is going to be a measuring stick game, no doubt about it. It's going to be Brian Kelly's third year, Lincoln Riley's third year. Both teams going into new conferences. I believe both teams will be breaking in a new quarterback because, as you know, Caleb Williams will be gone after this coming year, and Jaden Daniels, if he continues to be their starting quarterback this year, this will be his last year. So they have some 4- and 5-star quarterback recruits. I believe Vandergriff is one of them. I know that they had a highly recruited other guy. I can't remember his name off the bat, but they're going to be breaking a new quarterback. And as you said, offensive and defensive line play. We're going to get to see what these teams have now that Lincoln Riley at that time and Brian Kelly will have a few recruiting classes that they've been developing. And this will show the nation where these two teams stand, much like the LSU Florida State game to begin, over Labor Day last year. So it's going to be a great game.
Speaking of great games, I'm not sure exactly how much we'll be able to see, but we have the spring game was announced recently. This is the Twitter account of the official USC Athletic Department. They put out this tweet for April 15th, 12 kick. I'm wondering who's going to pick it up on TV. I hope it's not on buried on the Pac-12 network. Last year was really cool with having ESPN involved. I'm hoping for similar. Also, you guys, if you've never been out to a spring game at USC, it's just nice. You haven't been able to see USC football in a long time. You get a great opportunity to see some of these young guys. This will be, another chance to see maybe a lot of the quarterbacks, right? I'm not sure if Nelson's going to play, but you're going to be able to see him throw, see a lot of the newcomers from around the country that are coming as transfers. Just take the opportunity, guys. It's a great day. I always used to bring my two boys with me, and we just go. Parking is always available. I'm hoping this year, though, it's a little more packed. Rick, what do you think on the spring game?
It is a great time like you. I haven't been in a few years. I used to take my girls to see the spring game, and I don't know what network it's going to be on. It might be on the Pac-12 network. I know ESPN has already said they're committed to show in Colorado. I don't know when their spring game is, but there's a lot of other great stories that are out there. USC was the story last year on a national level, but I'm looking forward. I'm going to go to the spring game this year because I haven't been in one in a while, and I want to see all the new guys that we have, the transfer portal guys. There's a few guys that are early enrollees, about 10 of them. So I'm looking forward to seeing it up close, and should be a great afternoon, and kind of get you your USC fix so you can actually see what what the guys did during spring camp. I mean, I remember watching the game last year on ESPN, and that was great, man. It was a good show. Got to see a lot of the new transfer players like a Mario Williams, a Brendan Rice. Got to see some Travis Dye. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. And yeah, I don't want to watch it on TV this year. I'm going to go to the Coliseum and check it out.
Yeah, agreed. And then they came with the slogan, "Jobs Not Finished." They've had a couple of themed videos along that line as well. You had asked me earlier in the week, Rick, about what I thought about Jobs Not Finished. I just think that they're talking on two levels. I think the message is to the team. The message to the team is, hey, great season, great Heisman Trophy, picking up all those wins. But I think they're looking at those 3 losses. I think they're looking at the fact they did not make it to the champion. This team, it was funny because in the initial interview and the press announcement for Lincoln Riley, he basically said that, hey, look, we're not messing around. This isn't a rebuilding year. We expect to win championships. What's my goal? My goal is, to win the championship. And I'm pretty amazed how close he actually got. I don't think he was winning, obviously, the playoffs this year. I don't know. I mean, if they're on all cylinders, and both, we had Voorhees healthy and we had Nealon healthy, I think that would have been a really dangerous team. But this year, I think the unfinished business, I think that he's calling his shot. He's trying to go Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll came in that 2001 year. And in 2001, it was a regular season was 6-6, and they ended up losing to the Utes of all people in a bowl game in Las Vegas. And so sound familiar. And though it left a bad taste in people's mouth, but everyone saw that we're beginning to have the foundations of something great. I know a lot of the people I talked to at tailgates and my dad all said, wow. I mean, we were not the greatest record, but we're going somewhere. I think last year was showing us what they can do. This is what they can do. He did say last year that last year is probably the worst roster that they will have at the school while he's there. And I believe him because they're improving. They're improving the roster. And with the improved roster, the improved defense, a lot's on the line. And I think that the job's not finished is alluding to the fact that they expect playoffs and they expect to play in and play for the national championship. What do you think, Rick?
Tim, all great points, man. I mean, you nailed it. It is echoes of Pete Carroll. And for our viewers that are in the chat, for you that have been watching USC football since after 2000, what we're talking about. For those that are younger, that maybe haven't been watching USC football for that long, hey, welcome. I'm sure you've heard a lot of the stories. And Tim and I were there for a lot of it, as were a lot of older Trojan fans that are out there. And so that mantra was "leave no doubt," and that manifested itself after that debacle with 2003 was "leave no doubt." And when I hear "jobs not finished," I'm kind of hearing that same mantra of "leave no doubt." And so, expectations here are to win championships. Lincoln Riley said that from day one. I think the expectations, and we'll talk about this a little later, Tim, are different for us. But keeping in mind this season that's coming up, I want to throw a number out at you, and you tell me what you think of this number.
Okay.
The number is 7.
Number 7. Okay. All right. So right off the bat, I think Kalen Bullock. I think Matt Barkley. Is it a player?
It's not a player. It's not a player. It's not a player. It's not a jersey. I'm just coming up with a number 7.
Is it the erroneous number of Heisman trophies that some morons in the media and fan bases think that we only have 7 Heismans? Is that it?
It's not. It's not.
It's 7 years since a bowl. No, it's been 6 years since a bowl. Now you stop me again.
All right, here it is. So when you go back to those Pete Carroll teams that we're talking about, and when USC has a real high ceiling and we're competing for national championships, we talked about the defense, and Pete Carroll was a defensive guy. And on those, I'm looking at the spring rosters, 2002 and 2004. Okay. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go back to 2002. This would be Pete Carroll's second year. And we had 11 guys on the defensive line, defensive ends or defensive line. And I'm going to rattle off these names, and you tell me, okay, that guy was a player, or man, I don't even remember that guy. Which means he was probably a reserve, a non-player. Okay, we'll do this real quickly. Sean Cody.
Yeah, he was a bit of a player. Yeah.
Okay, there's one.
He was Pete Carroll's really his first coup. He stole him from Notre Dame, and I think that's what really swung the team. But yeah, okay, he's a player.
Got one. Okay, Kenechi Udeze.
Yeah, amazing. Okay. Transformed his body, became a monster. Yes, BKU.
Yep.
If you have your own initials, Rick, you were a player. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. There's two. Mike Pollard.
Yes, Pollard.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. He was a linebacker, but no. Let me go back to here. Here I go.
I think it might be thick and stout is what I think.
So no. I'm sorry. Let me. Those were two guys on the spring roster. We had Cody and Udeze. Okay. Here's another one. Anthony Day.
Yeah. He didn't get a lot of recognition, but I actually met him a couple times in summer ball. So I know of him, but I don't think the average guy would know him. No.
Yeah, no. Okay. Austin Jackson.
Austin Jackson, yes, absolutely. Household name of Trojans, definitely during those Pete Carroll years.
Okay. He was a freshman. He really didn't play all that much. I don't have him down as one. Jay Bottom.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Van Brown.
Van Brown, no.
Okay. Omar Nazel.
Absolutely. Part of the Wild Bunch too.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Lawan Ramsey.
Yes.
Yep.
Starter.
Yep. Daniel Urquhart.
No, not much to.
Okay. Now there was one guy in spring ball.
But hold on, I want to stop short though. All great Trojans. These guys played. No, these guys lettered at USC, so I'm not saying they're not special. They are special to me. Just probably not household names.
The guys that were starters or played significant time. We got Udeze, Sean Cody, Omar Nazel, Lawan Ramsey. Okay, we're at 4 right now. Okay. There's a guy who was.
What about Big Mike?
Hold on, I got 4. Fred Matua, believe it or not, was a defensive lineman. As a freshman, they moved him to offensive guard.
I think I remember that.
Right. Pretty amazing. Okay, number 4. Okay, Mike Patterson, you called that one.
Yeah, Big Mike.
Mike Patterson out of Los Alamitos High School.
They would not have done it without him. Yeah.
Another guy, Bernard Riley.
Yeah. Another La Salle guy, role player.
Another La Salle guy. And he was a senior on that squad. And then the last one, Manuel Wright.
I think there's a lot more hype for him than what he did, but he was a great. I mean, I liked him. He was a favorite of mine.
And that was his freshman year out of Long Beach Poly. He was highly recruited. So there was my point is there was 7 guys that you could say, yeah, they were they had significant time playing on defensive and defensive line. I'm not going to go through the same exercise, but 2004, I went through it. 7 guys. So back in the Pete Carroll days, now obviously it was different. The offenses have changed. There's more plays, spread offenses. You need to have 10 guys. You need to have 10 guys that you can count on, such as the 7 that you had in that 2002, 2004 year. And I'm looking at the USC defensive line, and that's the challenge that these guys are going to have to is they're going to have to develop. Now, back in Pete Carroll's day, he had 2 junior college transfers. He had Van Brown was one of them, and then also Daniel Urquhart. So now you have the transfer portal. So he has 3 guys that have transferred that'll be getting edge defensive line play, in Sullivan and Anthony Lucas and Jamil Muhammad. So we're gonna see. Hey, can USC develop 10 defensive lineman edge guys that can rotate and be the strength of this team? And set a foundation for the defense. So there was my crazy number.
Yeah, I like it. That's again goes back to what I was saying about that LSU game. What I'm looking for. We're gonna need those Sean Cody's, those Mike Pattersons, right? Those Omar Nazel type guys if we want to be able to, go into Jordan Hare and smack them around, right? Or these teams like they did to Auburn, Arkansas, and the other SEC teams. There's a legacy of Trojans beating the SEC. USC has a winning record against the SEC. They have winning records against all of them except for Alabama, but overall they have a winning record against the SEC. So I am excited. I hope we can match that kind of talent on the line. Let's see. It's going to be interesting. Speaking of lines, so then now we're talking offensive lines. And then this picture, I grabbed this picture and threw it up there because, we talked a lot about the skill guys. We talked about quarterback. We talked about running back. But Charlie White here going in for the winning touchdown against the Buckeyes in the 1979 Rose Bowl. It's not happening without the Brad Buddy and the Anthony Munoz guys up front making those huge holes and making a difference on the offensive line. So this year, we're losing two amazing NFL offensive linemen. You have the heart and soul of any offensive line. You had Nealon down the middle at center. He is going to be greatly missed. And then you also have a talent, strong guy who blows out his knee and then comes in on crutches and puts up the most reps at the combine of anyone. I think offensive line and anyone. That's a hell of a testament to the guys that we're losing. Any thoughts on the guys we're losing, Rick?
Hey, they're both great Trojans. I love Nealon. He really developed into a great center. It was great seeing him progress. Andrew Voorhees, credit to that guy, and it's unfortunate that he did have that injury, but he's a standout character guy. He was not highly recruited. I believe he was a 3-star, and he was developed over time. He didn't have to come back after last year. He did.
Yeah.
And both of those guys are going to be outstanding pros. And I think any NFL team would be lucky to have them. And best of luck to those two guys.
Yeah, without the Nealon nudge, right? We lose that game. We're probably even talking about the conference championship game in Las Vegas. And then speaking of Las Vegas, we knew that we weren't going to have Voorhees for that whole game, and then we lost Nealon at the end of that game, and we saw how that ended up. And then obviously, I know it's sour grapes, but we had neither of these guys in the bowl game against Tulane. I think that might have been a little bit different if we had both these guys in that game. So I like this picture because it has, you have two guys. You have Dedich talking to Nealon, and I think that's going to be the heart and soul of this team. The quarterback of the offensive line, the guy calling out the line play and calling out the blocking. It's going to be huge for him. But Rick, what do you think about the rest of the offensive line?
Well, that is a great picture there, Tim. And that was the number one offensive line recruit was Justin Dedich. The fact that he came back for his 6th COVID year is huge because he's going to be the heart and soul, as Dedich just was the heart and soul of the team for the last 2 years, the offensive line. And now, I'm sorry, as Nealon was, now Dedich is. And so that was huge that Lincoln Riley was able to get him to come back for this his last year. And you've got a lot of great pieces on the offensive line in terms of numbers. I think we were talking previously. There's going to be 18 guys that start a summer. There's 13 right now, but we're missing 4 freshmen, and then also Ethan White, the transfer from Florida, one of the offensive linemen from Florida, is going to be coming in the summer as well. So there'll be 18 guys all fighting for playing time. I think we're going to be able to develop 10, 11 guys, solid guys, rotational guys to keep the line fresh. And then also I love the 5 freshmen we have coming in because those are great development pieces. And I love what our O-line coach, I love what he's all about. He's an amazing guy who can develop players and they really relate. And so offensive line is going to be key. What are you thinking from the offensive line? What to look for this spring and summer there? Tim.
Yeah, Henson bringing one of the greatest things that happened to USC is on Lincoln Riley's staff. Beatembo at Oklahoma was a well-renowned offensive line coach. He, for whatever reason, did not follow Riley to USC, but Riley was able to go out to and grab the guy from the SEC offensive line coach from the Texas A&M Aggies, and bringing Henson in is just an absolute coup for this team. And we're starting to see the benefits of that. You know, make no mistake, people are looking at how Voorhees came in as a 3-star, and we know he was probably underrated, right? The guy was a late bloomer, but the development under Henson and a number of these other guys, as well as with Dedich, the eyes are all on how these guys are performing. And USC has been putting guys, crazy enough, in first rounds, but it's usually one. When we start to put guys in, they get developed and then they start rolling into the NFL. That's when we're going to start seeing the recruiting pick up again. We know we've lost a couple of guys in the last cycle. It was really kind of a miss, really. We lost guys to Florida State, Miami, and Oregon, but and they were a highly valued recruits that we wanted to commit. But having Henson there, and every year that they do well, they perform well, and we run the ball. I really do believe, by the way, this year with the running backs that we have and this offensive line with the additions we brought in that we'll talk about in a moment, I think that we're going to really be able to run the ball. We're going to get a good lead, and I think we're going to salt away these games. Bring in Miller Moss and just running and just imposing our will on some teams. So again, that's the favorite thing about offensive linemen is to run the ball. So when they get to pin their ears back and do some run blocking, I'm really looking forward to that. That with Henson getting guys into the NFL, running the ball a lot more, showing that we're not some, team that's just going to spread the ball and throw it, that we're actually going to run the ball, because that's what Riley has done.
Well, and that's what you're going to see. I think this year is going to be a big tell year. And you laid out some of the details there, Tim, is that if you take a look at it, we have lost out on Josh Connerly, Francis Malgoa, and also Lucas Simmons of Florida State. Those are the 3 big recruits that we did.
I wasn't going to name them. They're dead to me. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. But those are 3 guys, and you can go ahead and make any excuse you want. But I think the key thing is look what happened this year. Okay, you had Caleb Williams transfer, wins the Heisman, and so what do you get in the portal? You get guys that want to come for their last year, maybe have another year, 2 years to block for Caleb Williams. Jarrett Kingston, the offensive guard from Washington State, who is in his last year, basically said that's why he came down to USC, is why wouldn't you want to raise your draft stock? He got hurt in the middle of last year, and why wouldn't you want to block for the Heisman Trophy winner and get some more showcase games? So he's here. Michael Tarquin from Florida, Ethan White from Florida. So you didn't hit on those 5-star offensive line recruits. Okay, well, what can you get in the portal? Yes, it's not the same thing, but these guys are proven guys. And this year, and the success that you build, you develop those 5 offensive line high school signings that you have, as well as your returning players. That gives you momentum during this 2024 cycle to sign some, offensive line high school guys. And all eyes will be on a couple of them that are in the backyard at Mater Dei. And just this weekend, actually, speaking of backyard, there was over 20 high school recruits that were visiting. A majority of them were 2024 class, a few 2025 guys. We're not really going to get into detail on that. It's just because it's early, but it's good to see that USC was entertaining 2024 recruits, because obviously recruiting has gotten off to a slow start. But really, over the summertime is that when you'll start seeing these recruits making commitments. Between now, and summertime, you'll see some momentum happening. But it's good to. What do you think about the visit this weekend? The visitors that they had. Anybody stand out, or you haven't really given it much thought?
Last year broke my heart, man. And you named off the 3 people. I literally did not want to say their names because recruiting is a really painful thing. So, grown men, living and dying on a little piece of paper that kids are going to send in. It gets rough. I fell for it. I was following recruiting the whole year with guys, and let's say they didn't land any of them. The names I was hearing at this time last year, that watch out for this guy, watch out for this guy. I didn't hear any of those guys pop up. But you know, I'm happy with, you know, Banuelos and Page and Lele and Tobias Raymond, man. If you guys remember that name, it might take him a couple of years to fill out, but Tobias Raymond and Alani Noah too, but Tobias Raymond, remember that name. He's a Trojan. He's not a potential Trojan. He is an actual Trojan. When he fills out, he's going to be a beast. And bringing in guys like White and Kingston and Tarquin, these guys are going to be able to allow those guys not to be thrown into the mix too early. These guys will have more time in the weight room. Benny Wiley can thicken them up, get them ready, get out there and play. But again, remember the name, Tobias Raymond. I think of this group, we have some studs coming in. You know, Page is a 4-star, and all these guys have size. But I'm really hoping to see this guy turn something special. As far as current offensive linemen right now, you know, I don't really have much to say on that. Talk to me again in the fall when we get closer towards that December signing day. Yeah, Rick?
I'm here.
All right. So we done with offensive line? We'll move on?
Well, let's go ahead, and why don't we drop the StreamYard link? So people want to call in, ask questions, we can do that.
Yeah, you guys, the StreamYard link, I'm going to put it in right now, but it's also in the description. If you go down to the description section of the video and they're on YouTube, you will be able to see the link, but I'll drop it in a second here. But speaking of offensive linemen, sorry, really quickly before I drop that, speaking of dropping the ball and offensive linemen, let's talk about Reggie Bush again, because he wants his Heisman back. Now it's been 4,753 days. And NCAA, you have one job. Please do your best to figure it out, because USC has figured it out. Recently, you know, we know that he has been put into the College Football Hall of Fame. Now, for the first time, USC is constantly talking about Reggie, talking about his Heisman Trophy, talking about his special place in football, and they're acknowledging his Heisman. So I think the media, the fans, and the College Football Hall of Fame have figured out it's time for you guys over there in the NCAA to figure it out yourselves. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and drop it now so we have the post-game wrap-up. But as I do, Jay, do you want to introduce Rick, our special guest, before we get the calls?
Yeah, let's do that. That's why I thought we would talk a little bit more offensive line with our special guest. I'm happy to bring on a Trojan alum, a friend. He's also a former USC baseball player. He played on the teams in the late 80s with Rodney Peete, John Jackson, Randy Tanner. He's a longtime season ticket holder, and happy to welcome to the tailgate Jamie, Big Game James Davenport.
Welcome, Jamie. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Hey, LBC, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I believe I rattled off some of those names from the baseball team. You're
way back.
Did you graduate in 90? Was it 90?
Yeah, 90. I was a junior college transfer at a Mount San Antonio College. I played for a great legend, SC legend, All-American, Dato's first All-American, Art Mazmanian, who had a tremendous career at Mount Sac. And he coached in the minors for equal amount of time, 35 years. He coached some legends that he groomed to be major leaguers. So I had some great fortune to play for Coach Gillespie, and didn't play too much. I was more of a platoon reserve player. I got on the bus once in a while if I was lucky, but I had some great relationships, and I know Mount Sac really helped me prepare for SC in many ways. So it was a great experience, great people, and I still have relationships with today.
And Jamie, one of the cool things I remember is Jamie went to St. Francis High School out of was that La Cañada?
Walking out of Thunder Ridge, yep.
Okay, and Jamie, senior year, was voted All CIF, I believe, first baseman, correct?
That's
and
correct.
second baseman, All CIF that year, a guy by the name of Jeff Kent. You may have heard of Jeff Kent, played for the Giants and the Dodgers. So, so Jamie, we were just talking offensive line.
Yeah.
You know, we've been to a number of games, number of tailgates where we kind of talk about what's going on. So one of the things we also talked about earlier was, you've seen it, the spring game, unfinished business.
Yep.
A poster that's going on. So share with Tim, myself, our viewers, to you, what does unfinished business mean? What does USC have to do this year to be successful and to compete for a college football playoff spot?
That's a great question, and I think you made a reference earlier as "Leave no doubt" under Pete Carroll's slogan, if you will. And I think what it means unfinished business is really not only competing on all three sides of the ball, special teams, defense, and offense, but really playing at a championship level, week by week, game by game. We can bring it all together. And I think the elephant in the room we all see was the defense this year. I mean, that was glaring with the Tulane game. I think it took me 4 months to get not quite 4 months yet, but it took me just until last week, to be honest with you, to get over that game because the defense really was shockingly horrific. And we're not going to go into a whole tirade about what that is. We all know what the issue is. But I'm really happy that they're able to give Grinch some help and provide some consulting and some defensive people that are going to come in. And I'm hoping that that's good where it's going to start. I always look at the past defenses that Pete had and John McKay and John Robinson. I know I'm going way, way back, but the foundation of SC football has always been with the defense first. SC's championships have been won on the defensive side of the ball. The beautiful thing we have now is we have the best offensive player and the best player in America with Caleb Williams and the surrounding cast that he has. Now we get our defense cleaned up, and some balance there is we're going to be in the playoffs if we get that defense cleaned up. And I think we will. And I think that we're going to have a heck of a year. And I think that's what unfinished business means. Championship level on all three phases of the game. And I think that we have a good chance of doing it. Speaking of offensive line, not to go into you mentioned Tobias. It's a great Tobias. What's his last name? Raymond.
Yeah.
Raymond. So I know his dad. We worked together at AT&T for many years in sales. Great guy. I think you're right. What Tim was saying. He is a late bloomer, but I think he's a diamond in the rough. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to need a year, maybe a redshirt year, to build his body up. But I'm more excited about the immediate injection of the SEC dudes, the guys from Florida, Ethan White, and I also like the guy from Wazoo, Kingston, and Tarquin from Florida. We're going to get immediate SEC experienced guys, and also the guy from Wazoo, to come in and play right away like Haskins did this year. And that's going to be really important for us. And I think with Cortland coming back, and I know the players, when it comes to being a former player and hearing the biggest compliment you can get is what your teammates say about you. When I heard Voorhees and Didich, I got his name, I hope I didn't butcher his name, the center now this year, fantastic leaders coming back. They mentioned over and over during the year, they said high things about, was it Jonah Monheim? Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Yeah, Monheim. Yeah.
Monheim. And it was one kid that they talked a lot about. So I think the nucleus coming back, there's a lot of strong areas that we're going to be able to fill the gaps in with the new guys coming in. So I think it's going to be exciting to see.
Yeah, I am excited. Again, we can look at how athletic, and he has the frame. Raymond just needs to bulk up, I think, and get that college strength, and he's gonna be a superstar.
Mason Murphy too. Sorry to interrupt you, Tim, if I did, but Mason Murphy, kind of about the nucleus of the players like Voorhees and Brett said about those guys that they were studs, and there's a lot of confidence in that offensive line room. And we're going to get deeper when camp comes in August, right?
Let's say we have depth. When you have injuries and you're doing patchwork and guys are moving around. The one good part about that, when you lose Voorhees, the only silver lining there is when he was out injured or playing injured and he needed a little spell. The people did have to shift line around a bit, and we did get people in there, and they bring back. They lose those two guys, but they bring back a lot of experience and bring in guys like you talked about Washington State. You got Kingston coming down. And then eventually you're going to have White and Tarquin. All these guys have a lot of reps between all of them. And so it's going to be an experienced, and it's going to be a big offensive line. And if you tell me we're going to have experienced big offensive line with Caleb Williams in front, right? I'm a very happy guy. I think we're going to see a lot more running. I don't know. Rick, what do you think? What do you think we're looking at run games to look like?
I feel very comfortable before we got the transfers with, Didich, Monheim, Cortland Ford. As you said, Jamie, Mason Murphy flashed, but you could tell that he had some playing times. He made some mistakes at times, but he got playing time and was kind of high on that kid, last summer. I think he was recognized, last summer, spring. I remember
Mhm.
Lincoln Riley talking about, Mason Murphy brought up his name. So you have those four guys plus the three transfers, and then you got a guy like Cooper Lovelace that's been in the program for a year. We'll get to see what he has,
Yep.
and then the five offensive linemen that are freshmen. You might have one guy, Elijah Page, that might get some reps. He's probably the most heralded guy that comes out, but you don't expect a freshman to play, and they probably won't. You might see that if there's an injury situation.
Right.
But the guys that we have, the core guys that we have, very happy to see that. And the other thing that people don't talk a lot about, but is that when you have the running game that we do, and we added Marshawn Lloyd.
Marshawn Lloyd. I call him the beast mode for SC. Marshawn Lynch, the Marshawn Lloyd from South Carolina.
Right.
He is an absolute guy that Tim was alluding earlier with a running game. He will basically augment what Austin Jones is doing. He will give him those two-headed monsters coming in. I will tell you, I watched highlights of that kid. He is unbelievable, and he is a hard worker too. I heard from a work ethic perspective that everyone from camp is saying he's unbelievable. So, and I think back to what happened last year. I think you made comments before on your show, LBC, is that our best defenses are our ability to keep the best defense we have is to keep the defense off the field because of the obvious reasons we had last year. And we would have run the ball better. With Caleb, it's hard because he's such an amazing quarterback. But now we can really have a true balanced offense with, power running game, finesse running game. It's going to be exciting. And back to what you were saying about, at the end of the day, it's unfinished business. I mean, we can talk about the defense all day long. I know we don't have time for the show, but there's some studs with Jack Sullivan. We got some, like you said earlier, on the offensive line, we got some big dudes coming in. And these guys, when they line up, I mean, you hear the reports from camp, from spring ball. These are men, the guy from Arizona, the big number 92 kid from U of A.
Ion Bars.
We got some studs coming in. So
don't forget about Anthony Lucas. They are big, they are thick,
yep.
and they have bad intentions. I like this defensive line, and they're there just in time. Believe me, for us going into the Big Ten next year.
Well, here let's take a look at that real quick. Since we got Jamie on, Jamie, we were talking earlier. I sometimes I throw out numbers, and I threw out the number 7, and so
I got a nugget for you. Keep going.
Okay, so basically, back in Pete Carroll days, 02 and 04, there were 7 guys that you knew you could count on. But the game is different now.
Yeah,
there's more plays spread. So I'm looking at 10. So I've got the names right here of the guys in our spring camp right now, and you tell me, is this guy going to be a player or we just don't know yet? All right.
Before you do that, I'm going to throw some history back at you. And sorry if I hijacked your thought there, but
no.
The guy that started the safety tradition of safeties before Ronnie Lott and when Mark Carrier, we can go on and on about the great tradition of safeties at SC. A guy by number 7 who wore the jersey, Dennis Thurman. He was the guy that started it all, and let's got to mention Dennis Thurman. Big shout out because he was an absolute stud.
Was Carrier 7 as well?
He was.
Carrier?
Yes,
He was. He carried on Dennis.
That's 7 carries a lot of legacy at USC.
Like 55 in a way, but yep. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah. So let me throw out these names, and let's see how many guys that we can say, hey, barring injury, this guy's going to be a player. All right. Corey Foreman.
Oh, that's a tough one. Corey, I'm hopeful that this will be the year where he stands out, but I don't have it. It's a tough one for me. Tim? Every time I say he's going to come out, he does it. Every time I say he's not going to come out, he does. That's a TBD. I'm hopeful that he will. That's a hard one.
Tim, Corey Foreman.
I think this could be. I've been saying this for a while. I think this could be his year. It's weird. He's bouncing around in weight. They're moving him. I think they're moving to a more natural position, right, where he's not out there in space. He can just rush the quarterback. If he is hand in the dirt, he is rushing the quarterback. I like that. I've heard a lot of people that I respect on podcasts say almost the same exact thing. And the guy's got talent, right? It's just going to be, this is his year. He needs to show that he can shed a blocker and get in there and be disruptive, because that's what you need. We need someone disruptive. The problem last year was, and why there were so many explosive plays, is, you know, if we want to keep talking about Pete Carroll, those Pete Carroll teams, if you were a quarterback, you better get the ball away quickly, because if you didn't, you had those guys. You had Sean Cody in your face. You had those guys. You had Patterson pushing the line back 5 yards deep, the pocket collapsing. So that's really what they need to do if they want to take that next level. If they do have unfinished business, guys like Corey Foreman have to be disruptive in the backfield, have to blow up plays, and that way you can cut down those explosive plays.
Yeah, not to belabor this anymore, but back to the UCLA game when he made that huge interception. I think that was a turning point for his confidence. But it comes down to what Grinch and the staff's going to do to put him in a position to succeed, like Tim is saying. If they put him in a position to succeed where he can get to the quarterback, unlike Tulane, where the guy had so much time, then it's not going to be a good development year for him. So it's going to be depending on where they put him.
Let's go ahead and put him as TBD. I like the way you stated that, Jamie. They are changing his position. Let's hope they put him in a better situation. But we just don't know. I mean, I hope for the kid's sake, for USC's sake, that he does flourish. This is the year where it all gets turned on. And but let's just put him at TBD. And let's kind of speed through this. The guys that I immediately say, okay, player, are the transfers. You know, Jack Sullivan, Jamil Muhammad, and Anthony Lucas. I think those three guys are going to come in and play. They're going to have to. They're going to play significant time. Let's go with and then also Kion Bars, the defensive tackle from
from U of A. They're going to make an immediate impact on the program for sure.
Other guys that I see, here we go. Tyrone Taleni.
He's improved a lot.
He flashed last year. He's a lot like Bird in the fact that he had games, but then he disappeared a little bit. I want to see some more consistency from those guys. They had games where they were in the backfield and they were disruptive. But then also seemed like they'd go games and they would almost disappear. So, you know, we need those guys to move in, because we expect that, because Romello Height went down. You know, that was the idea. Romello Height going down was a major issue. Matter of fact, I think someone brought that up. When Romello Height went down, these guys need to step up. They did, but they weren't consistent. And that's what I'm talking about. They put a lot of pressure on our secondary, and that's why we had a lot of those explosive plays.
Yeah, I agree. Taleni was more of a development player last year. He has some big plays and when we needed it, and he hasn't played a lot of football. He was at Kansas State as a transfer, and you know, he's kind of a fresh body guy. But I think that without being banged up a lot, so I'm hoping that he can use this year to really take his game to the next level. But I think he's good for the depth.
So you group him and Solomon Bird. Again, those guys, you know, flashed at times, but they're going to have to step up and play a more significant role and be more counted on as a rotational player. I think other names that we take a look at that had some major playing time last year, number 47, Stanley Tuafuau. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. He's back as a redshirt senior. And then Solomon Tuliapupupu. He was hurt, you know, for every year until last year. And they're changing his position from, you know, he was a linebacker as he came to SC, and now he's going to be a defensive lineman. But, you know, he was counted on last year for making some good plays. So those are a couple guys that, hey, they've played. They're going to have to step up again. And then you have a lot of other guys that are, you know, third on the depth chart. But those are some guys that have to step up and have to make some contributions. And I don't know where we're at. I think we're at like a number of, you know, anywhere from 6 to 9 to 10, but, you know, numbers 7, 8, 9, and 10, you don't know. So this is going to be a crucial time in spring and summer. I mean, what do you guys think with, you know?
I think someone in chat mentioned Anthony Lucas, the transfer from A&M. And I believe that he's going to be a big impact guy too. And going back to the immediate injection of depth that we can get people that have experience in the SEC that have had a lot of snaps, that's going to be really crucial for us. But yeah, I agree with you, Rick, everything you said.
And I think that maybe Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're confusing. I think you're confusing. Romello Heights, the only guy I could think of, and he did not have a knee. I thought it was a shoulder.
The shoulder.
And he's an edge rusher. No, he's not a tackle. So correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. I'm not sure who you're talking. I don't know that had an ACL on the defensive line last year. Could be wrong.
I don't think Anthony Lucas was injured last year. He had some playing time as a freshman, but yeah, there was.
And Bars wasn't injured, so I don't. I mean, no. He didn't have an ACL, Bars, so I'm not sure exactly who he's talking about, but I appreciate the question. So, all right, you guys. So we should probably move into. Maybe we have some. We'll keep Jamie. You mind hanging around for a few minutes while we go over just a couple of questions people had for us? So a couple of good ones I had. I like this one right here, and I have my thoughts, but
Dr. C.
Yeah, he's got a question. Could USC win a national title with only California recruits? Could USC win a national title with only California recruits? I say, yeah. If you got all the top players in the state, I think the issue where you might have a question would be, like I talked about, what the SEC does really well. If we happen to have a couple really, if we have a couple talented, and I mean deep, because remember, you can't just be like one or two guys deep on the defensive line. Why I say the SEC is so good is because defensive linemen get banged up. They get tired. You got to kind of rotate them in, not only within game to game, but I mean, within a game, you rotate these guys coming after you. That's when you have talent like Alabama, dominance of Georgia. That's how they're able to do it. I don't know if USC could sustain the interior defensive linemen, but I think pretty much every other position, I think we're putting top players around the country. What do you guys think?
Jamie, what do you think, man?
Well, I think all experts say, and we've seen it before, and everyone you talk to, is we need to own California. We need to own the state, run the state, put a fence around University of Southern California. We need to get everybody in California coming to SC. And I think the answer is yes. But I also think that if we own California, the rest will follow. We were able to do that with Pete Carroll. I mean, he was able to kind of, like what Tim was saying, he's able to go into Jersey, get Dwayne Jarrett. He was able to go to, and also to Jersey, get two guys, actually, Brian Cushing and also Dwayne Jarrett. But he really focused on owning California because he believed that he can win a national championship by running the state, owning the state. So I think it's going to be a hybrid approach, but it's going to be, if we're going to win championships, it's going to be dominating California, I think. That's what a lot of the talent is.
Yeah, I love those Pete Carroll teams. He'd circle about you get like Fred Davis from Ohio. You get Big Mike Williams from Florida. Even recently, they go in and get Ronald Jones, out of Florida. So the key is they get the best guys here in Southern California, and then you go out and cherry pick the best players and the NFL players in the country, like they did. Rick?
The answer is no. And you guys just rattle it off. You're naming all these other players that are out of state. You cannot win. It was the question, can you win a national championship?
With only? Yeah,
no, you can't. Because California has changed in the last 20 years. And Tim, you alluded to it. You cannot get the defensive line talent out here. Those guys are different parts of the country, mainly the South. You just can't. You might get one or two, but you're not going to get significant numbers that you need to compete on a national level. Same with offensive linemen. You're just not going to. You might in one year, but then it's going to be dry in another. And so you just can't. Now you can get all the skill guys. You can get the quarterbacks. You can get the wide receivers. You can get running backs. But no, you cannot win a national championship from only California recruits. You're fooling yourself if you think you can. You just can't.
I just saw something though. Hold on, bear with me on this. So we're saying recruiting and California recruits. I say you can. I just changed my answer to yes. And here's my thinking on it. Ready? Because then we dip into our AAA farm systems, Arizona, Colorado, right? Like we've done the last couple of years. We go into our I think AA is Oregon AA. I think Oregon's only AA. So we go AA Oregon, and we'll pick their best players. And so you fill those defensive line positions, especially those defensive tackle positions with transfers, with the transfer portal. Do I think it's sustainable? No. Do I think it's possible? I think it is possible. I think it's possible to do it if you were to go the transfer, if you would add the additions, because no team is going to win. Oh, I shouldn't say that, but it makes it in today's football, it's really difficult not to go into the portal at all for certain positions. I mean, if you look at a lot of teams, they usually go into the portal and they pick up their quarterback, right? A lot of national championship teams, they're kind of doing that kind of route sometimes. So you got to look at the options available to you. So I think you could have all California recruits, lock down the best California recruits, and then try to grab your defensive tackles and defensive ends from throughout the country through the portal. Because, by the way, you would not need the best. You would just need serviceable guys at those positions if you had studs at rush end and other positions. I am very horrible. The fact that I got Larry here. Larry, you know me. I know you. I appreciate your $5 super chat. Sorry it took me so long to see this one. Feel like I am watching informed, intellectual gentlemen. Thanks, guys. Breathe a breath of fresh air and good luck this season. So thank you very much to you.
Thanks, Larry.
Appreciate. Go Utes, except for when you play the Trojans. Good luck when you come to Coliseum, Larry. Then we have just a comment from Todd Gwynn. He's also he's a USC fan, but he's the other USC fan on the East Coast. He says smash mouth football. I think that's an allusion to the fact he alluded to the fact that we're talking offensive, defensive line, and also talking about the South Carolina running back that we picked up, Marshawn Lloyd. So that guy is a banger, along with Barlow and Jones. Those three guys with our offensive line, we should have mouth football. Any thoughts on that? I mean, I'm sure I know exactly where Jamie's going to go with this because he keeps talking about Pete Carroll and teams going all the way back to Robinson.
Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah, and not to live in the past. Yeah, not to live in the past by any means, but absolutely. I mean, I'm going to call him the beast mode for absolutely. I think it's a great have some absolute studs at my running back room, like no defenses. They're going to have to not only scheme for our skill guys and Caleb Williams, but they're going to have their hands full with our running back room for sure.
And on this one, I don't want to steal Rick's thunder. You guys, Rick, look on the horizon. Rick's going to unearth a little bit of baloney that's been thrown around about the college landscape over the decades. But this might be a part you might want to tune in for when Rick goes off on his take of the 70s and 60s. But long ago, USC had to split the national title with Alabama, and we had beaten them head to head. And I think he's referring to the 1978 season there, where USC went to Alabama and beat them by a couple touchdowns and ended up splitting the title, which I agree is pretty absurd. Rick, do you want to give any small little vignette about that game?
Who is this guy? Oh, Rick, man, that's that's pretty funny. Great comment. Yeah, no, I agree with you. But that was college football back then. That was you just had an amazing decade in the 70s. You know, Bear Bryant was this myth, this legend. He was awesome. There was limited TV exposure, so basically everything you heard about a certain team was, in the media through the newspaper. But yes, this is a great point. USC actually beats Alabama in their home stadium, which is kind of hard to do back in the day. And you split the national championship. So Alabama had one loss, and then USC lost to ASU that year. They both had one loss, but then USC has to split the national championship. Can you imagine that type of rhetoric today? Tim, you did mention something about going through and I am working on this project, and thanks to Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, that will be coming out sometime in May. I'll be on with Mark Rogers, and we'll be discussing that after the spring games. April's going to be a busy spring game, but yeah, great comment there by Rick.
Yeah, I was sad to that. My dad went back to that game with his friends at the time, and when we played Charles White was back in '78. That team that John Robinson took back to Tuscaloosa. Actually, they played, I think, at Birmingham Field back then. Yeah, they did. I don't think they played at that stadium they play at now because they didn't have the stadium the size at the time.
Right.
And my dad told me basically, he said USC went in there and really beat them good, and to the point where the Alabama fans were just sitting there shocked. They didn't know what to say. And it's a shame because they beat them head to head. I mean, if you didn't have a playoff system at the time, and they should have been awarded that national championship, beating them head to head. And the way they beat them, though, they didn't just beat them by a couple points on a field goal the last second. It was USC beat them from all 3 phases of the game end to end, and they deserve that. And John Robinson, the last thing on this, John Robinson, he talked about it for many, many years that he felt the SC was robbed from getting a unanimous national championship from that team. That really bothered him for many years.
Yeah, agreed. And then let's do one more because we're a little over right now. But Warren Childs, thank you. It says Tim and Rick, and I'm with our Jamie in here too. Do you guys have any trap games for this season, upcoming season, that may be a possible stumbling block for a college football playoff run? It's kind of hard to me, honestly. If I'm thinking, I tried looking at this earlier in the year, as far as a game where I can see a true trap game, because the problem is the front half of the season is a pretty soft schedule. If everything's to chalk, it's pretty soft schedule. The only one, and then the end of the season ending with ending the season with Utah, California, Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. None of those would be a trap game. All those, that's just going to be a hell of a run. So the closest thing I think of as a trap game is going to be the Arizona game. Seeing as that we took we took their best, one of their best receivers and interior defensive lineman. I would be interested to see what Judd Fish's team comes out looking like. But overall, I don't really see any traps. The closest thing to a trap game might be that Arizona game right before looking ahead to Notre Dame. What do you guys think?
Jamie, what do you think, man?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that I think we're going to handle Utah at home. Then that's not the question that we need to answer here. I think that that's a good one. I think Oregon also is going to be a tough game. I'm not sure if you call that a trap game. I really believe the schedule favors us from a trap game perspective. I would probably say Arizona too. I think we can win all those games. I think Notre Dame is going to be tough in a couple other ones, but yeah, I honestly think all these games are really winnable this year. I think we have a great schedule ahead of us, and I think we get past Oregon, we get past Notre Dame. I don't think anybody's going to beat us. So. So I really don't see a trap game, honestly, aside from the games that are tougher games. So I'll retract what I said about Arizona. I think we don't really have any trap games other than the games that are going to be really tough in Notre Dame and Oregon, to be straightforward with you. That's my personal take.
I have a different take. I think the game against Cal, at Cal, on October 28th is going to be a trap game. And people may laugh at that, but 2 weeks earlier, you're going to be at Notre Dame. That is going to be a huge game. It always is. And that has national implications. And then you come home and play against Utah. Again, this is the last time we're going to be in the Pac-12. You have to get up 2 times in a row, right? At Notre Dame, home against Utah, and then you got to go on the road to Cal. And they might not have a great team, but they always play USC tough, and they are going to have a lot of spite and venom because this is it. We don't know the next time we're going to play Cal. And then you might be looking ahead, but you got to get ready to go against Washington, Oregon, and UCLA. So if there's a letdown, I'm looking at that Cal game.
Yeah. The only thing with Cal, I didn't pick Cal is because I just don't think they have the athletes to play with our players.
Yeah,
I mean, and you would need from them would be is I think the strength of them is their defense and some Wilcox coming up with some great scheme and some great plan. But good luck trying to scheme against this offense. It's gonna be scorched earth when we go through the Pac-12 this year. This offense is gonna put up insane numbers. So I can't.
Yeah, I think our biggest concerns are going to be the games that we know that are sticking out. The Oregon game, and obviously UCLA is always a tough game. I really believe we're going to beat Utah at home this year. I think we're going to get them at home. I'm a little concerned about Washington because Washington has a hell of a quarterback and they have a hell of a coach. That could be a tough game, but we're playing at home. I think we're in good shape. We have a schedule where some of these tough games are at home, so we'll take care of it. Going back, this is unfinished business this year, and I really believe we're going to do it.
Yeah, I believe USC will be favored in every game except that at Oregon game this year.
Yeah,
and who knows? If we're rolling the way I think maybe we will be favored. We'll see.
Tim, I want to let you in on a little inside joke here. And this will be kind of the next question, or Jamie, you can comment on it. Jamie and I have been watching a lot of SC football for a number of years, and ironically, we started off this show talking about USC playing LSU in 2024, and so Jamie and I have had a number of conversations over the years, but specifically in the few years after that game. And so, Jamie, it's kind of ironic that we have you on the show today, but give us your thoughts on that LSU USC matchup. What does that mean?
Wow, the one in 2024, the one is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that USC is going to be playing LSU. When you hear that, give me.
Well, I think back to the year we didn't have a chance to play him on the White House lawn, and when we got that split national title with Pete and Nick Saban, I thought it would have been a heck of a game, and would have been if they had a playoff system. That would be a game of the century. We talked about the OU game, which we dominated, the Texas game, that would have been. But going back to this game, it's going to be something else. I mean, they travel well. We know about the Bayou fan base. It's rabid, and they have a great – and also and being in Vegas, SC and LSU and a kickoff classic, and both teams are going to be at the peak of where they should be. We're going to be going into the Big Ten, and Kelly's going to have his team kind of closer to where he wants them to be. It's going to be a classic. It's going to be I think it's going to be a battle. It's going to be something to watch for hopefully a historic game. I'm looking forward to it. And by the way, historically, we played LSU with John Robinson. They joke around. John Robinson jokes about how the refs helped him and win that game back in the day. There's a lot of history, some cool history between these two schools early in the season when they played. And I'd like to see that also happen in the postseason, which we never had a chance to see yet.
Cool.
All right. Well, listen, we appreciate everyone stopping by our show tonight. Any last thoughts, Rick?
Hey, it's great to have you on, Jamie. Appreciate your time. You're always welcome. Thanks to the viewers, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, Elaine, for having me on. Thanks, Tim.
Oh, I appreciate you coming by. Come by anytime. So for Rick and Jamie, and this is Tim, and we appreciate you guys. Fight on.
Fight on.